Now that we have some basic movement and camera views for our player, let's start to work on something we can shoot. So let's go to the shared folder and create a new script called shooter. All right, let's reopen it. All right, there we go. Let's add a property for our rate of fire and add a private float for next fire allowed. And then in our awake method, we need to find the muzzle exit for the weapon. So let's make a public transform muzzle, but we hide it in the inspector. And in wake function, we're going to look for the muzzle. Muzzle. All right. Now, if we want the player to fire, check if it's allowed to fire based on the rate of fire, and then return a boolean true or false for it. So we have a bool can fire in our update function. I'm sorry, in our fire function. It's going to be void fire. We're going to check if can fire will always be false. So we reset it every time when the player tries to fire, and then we check for the fire. So if time.time is less than next fire allowed, we cannot allow the player to shoot because the rate of fire is blocking it. Else it will be can fire. It will be true. Now we're going to mark this method as virtual, so we can override it from a different class. So let's create a simple weapon. Let's create an empty object, reset it. Let's call it assault rifle, which will probably be our first weapon of choice too in this game. Then we have a mesh, and for now we're going to add a simple cube. Here we go, and we're going to scale it down and increase it on the Z axis. It doesn't really matter because we're going to change it with a proper model later on. So there we go. Then we're going to add the muzzle, and we're going to put it at the front of the weapon, like so. This is where the where the fire will come, where the bullet will come out, or the tracing will start. Now, let's create a new script. Let's call it assault rifle. And we're going to attach it to the assault rifle game object. Open it up, and we're going to inherit from the shooter instead from the money behavior. Because shooter inherits from money behavior, we also have the same properties available here. Now, if we do nothing, we can even use this. We can use this method. So let's go to the player, give it an empty game object with rifles, weapons. We're gonna parent it. In the player object, let's create a new script for it. let's call it a player shoot, and attach it to the player. Let's do it manually first. So we're gonna add a shooter assault rifle. Wait for it to compile. So we have declared an assault rifle from the type of a shooter, and now drag in the assault rifle, which is a assault rifle class, but because it inherits from shooter, we can assign it. Now in the update function, we could fire the gun. So let's go to our input controller and add a fire. We'll fire 1. Fire 1 will be input get button. Fire 1. Back to the player shoot. If game manager input instance input controller fire 1, we can do assault rifle fire. There we go. Let's go to the shooter. So it's calling this fire method. We don't have anything in the assault rifle. So let's type print firing. Let's see what happens. Nothing, right? Not sure what that was. Let's check it out. Play shoot. What's going on? Print here. There we go. Oh, it's firing. I wasn't seeing maybe it didn't compile correctly. So let's do it again. So when I hit the fire button, it will say firing constantly all the time. Now if we look at the let's play a shoot. There we go. We have a rate of fire in the assault rifle. So if we're going to put it at 0.3, we have a rate of fire of every 0.3 seconds. So I'm going to add the time to it. Not really working. Yeah, of course. I'm not assigning the next fire time allowed. So if time is smaller than the next fire time allowed, I'm returning the function. So if that isn't the case, next fire allowed will be time and add rate of fire. Now we should be able to only fire. I'm holding the mouse with every second. So if we're going to switch it to 0.3, it's every 0.3 seconds firing. So that way we can control the rate of fire very easily. Now let's go back to the assault rifle, because in shooter we have the virtual method. We can override it in the assault rifle. So if you type override, you can see which methods are available to override. So I'm going to override the fire. Basically, it will first execute the base, or I mean, if you want to execute the base first, you do base fire, then it will first do the shooter, and then you can continue your code. But I have access to the properties in shooter, so if can shoot, can fire, what do I do? No, make it public. If can fire, we can fire the gun. So basically the shooter only checks if we, right now, it only checks if we are allowed to fire. Okay, let's add a new, we could do it in different ways. First we're going to let the shooter instantiate bullets, which are prefabs. So serialized field, it's going to be a transform bullet, or let's call it projectile. Even better, we should create a class for the projectile. So in the shared, create a new class, projectile, and in the shooter, we want the projectile assigned. Projectile. Now, when can fire is allowed, when we are able to fire, we can instantiate the bullet, the projectile. So instantiate projectile, muzzle position, muzzle rotation. And there we go. So now let's create a new bullet. Assault rifle bullet. We're going to add the projectile component to it. And we're going to give the projectile some properties to use. So when it gets instantiated, it will do its magic. So serialized field. We need a speed for the bullet to travel. We're going to use a time to live before we auto-destroy it. And we're going to assign a damage, which it will give to anything it hits. In our update function, we're going to simply translate the projectile's transform to a different, to its position. So transform, translate, transform, translate. We're going to move it forward. This is local, by the way, so I'm using factory forward times speed times time delta time. Also, when we start, we're gonna say destroy the game object in time to live, so in the number of seconds. Now we need to collide this with something, so we need a rigid body. There we go. So we're going to use a trigger for it. Let's take a collider. Let's call this other. Then we need, well, we can say we need to hit first. What is that name? Now let's add a rigid body. Let's make it not use gravity and make it kinematic. And then we're gonna add a collider as well. Collider. Oh, let's do it a little bit different. Let's add a capsule. Now we can use a cube, by the way. It's not really, it doesn't really matter. Let's scale it down. Let's move it, by the way. So I make a small bullet. We're gonna keep the mesh renderer for now so we can actually see what we are doing. So we have a box collider. I'm gonna use it as a trigger. Let the shadows, for now, do what it should do. Let's call this match. So now we have the assault rifle. We're gonna assign a speed to it. So when it's instantiated, it will start moving from the direction it spawned, in a rotation it spawned. So yeah, let's do it. So let's give it a speed of 10. It's gonna be probably very high. We're gonna destroy it in 5 seconds. And the damage it will give eventually will be 1. Now let's make a new folder, call it prefabs, and drag the bullet to it, and then we drag the projectile from the prefab. Destroy it from the scene. Yeah, let's see what happens now. We got an object reference when we fire, which is the muzzle, of course. We haven't created a muzzle in the assault rifle. Oh, we have. Is it case sensitive? Could be. Yeah, right. Oh, I see something flying, but it's completely off. Maybe because position. Oh wait. 0, 0, 0. No. I thought we were assigning it as well. But let's see what happens. It gets destroyed as well after 5 seconds. So that works. It works. We just need to get it at the right position, the muzzle position. There's the weapon. Oh yeah, of course. The weapon is floating up in the sky. So we're gonna remove the cube we assigned for the, so we were able to look where the player was looking. And now we're gonna add the weapon. Let's maybe here. It's just for debug. Let's create a quick new folder, call it materials, and create a new material. Call this assault rifle. Make it a little bit dark, and then assign a material to the weapon. So it's a little bit different. Now we have the weapon, and we can, you see, we can shoot at the rate of fire, and bullets get destroyed. Yeah. Well, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next movie.